What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So earlier today I addressed how there was discussions of a potential $2,000 stimulus check. So I want to really address that now. Are stimulus checks a real possibility? The answer is yes. We also know the White House responded to the talks of additional stimulus checks and additional stimulus out to the economy. So I want to address that in today's video as well. But here's something that I also want to touch on. Many people across the internet, across social media, have been saying that there were calls for a $2,000 monthly stimulus check. That is 100% false. There is no talks at this point of a monthly recurring stimulus check. There's talks of additional stimulus, but it's mainly coming for businesses and restaurants, and the only way we could potentially see a stimulus check is if we are pretty much shut down. So to be 100% clear, the first thing that you need to know and keep in mind is that a stimulus check would be a secondary thought to passing a bill that would include funding for businesses who are negatively impacted due to the Omicron variant and just COVID in general. This would include businesses like restaurants. It was talked about for movie theaters and bars and gyms and many small businesses that operate on a very lean staff where they only have a handful of people to rely on and count on. And if those handful of people go down due to COVID and they can't come in because they're sick or they're contagious, then that business is going to be shut down for whatever amount of time that is. And in most cases, it's more than just the 5 days that the CDC recommends we stay isolated. So right now, stimulus checks would only be an afterthought. They would be added in the event and only in the event of a lockdown. And if a lockdown is called upon again, we are probably going to be in a worse shape than we are right now. So if we don't get a lockdown, then those $2,000 stimulus checks at this point would pretty much be off the table. But I want to address what's actually going down right now. First off, the Senate, they're not coming into Washington tomorrow. Many of them are gonna leave. They're gonna go back to their home states. Some may stay, but others say, why? So here's what I can tell you. The Senate's gonna come back next week when the House does, but it doesn't mean they're done working. Senator Ben Cardin, he stated today, we have language that we've been circulating, but we're not there yet. Leadership is encouraging us. Well, what does this mean? This is actually in regards to providing aid to businesses, such as restaurants and other industries that have major concerns over the spike in COVID cases. But the interesting part here is that this is actually a bipartisan discussion. What he's saying is that we have language, it is circulating, whether or not we are going to provide something. Leadership, President Biden, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, they're all encouraging lawmakers to come to the table to potentially put something together to provide additional assistance. But keep in mind, the main part is to go to businesses. The afterthought, okay, something that could come later would be potentially for the individual. But again, it would come after a lockdown. We did hear from the White House today, and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, she stated today, and I quote, "We are in a very different place than we were a year ago or 6 months ago, and the economy is strong." The economy is strong in many places, but not everywhere. Is it stronger than it was in March of 2020? Yes. Is it stronger than it was in January of 2020? Probably not. But according to Senator Ben Cardin, he says leadership is encouraging us to provide a proposal for additional aid. But at this time, there is no formal proposal yet. So they're pushing for something, but there's nothing yet. And here's what I can tell you. It takes a while for Congress to get going. It takes them a little bit. And what you need to keep in mind is that lawmakers want to do all they can to get us out of this pandemic. I think every single person wants to be done with this. Tired of COVID, don't care about the new variants, let's just get out of it however we can. But The moves that might need to be made in order to accomplish this quickly, according to reports, this is going to require a lot of sacrifices from the American people, and they will require Congress to finally work together. So this is interesting whether or not this actually happens, but what I can tell you is there has been multiple discussions of how can we get out of this pandemic. If we lock down, we shut down, yes, people will not be able to make any money because they'll be at home unless you work from home. Many children are going to be negatively impacted for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks. And again, I'm just throwing that number out there because that's what some say. It would be potentially a lockdown for 2 to 4 weeks. We see a big, this surge in cases pretty much subside, right? It pretty much goes away, or that's at least the hope. And if it does, and if everybody does their part, we can finally be done with this come this spring. But here's the other thing. Even though some say that the peak is going to be in like the next 7 days, what I can tell you based off a lot of research is that some say if we're to lock down now, what's going to happen is people will lock down. Then as soon as things open back up again, it's just going to be a free-for-all. Everybody's going to be excited to be out and probably maskless. And what's going to happen is we're going to see a huge spike in cases after the lockdown. So really the only way it would work is to lock down for the entire like winter until people can now be outdoors again, and then they can pretty much resume their normal lives. But again, I don't see that happening either. But here's something that a senior Biden administration official had to say just today. I want to read you this statement. Let me bring you the statement. Look at this. And a senior Biden administration official poured cold water on any further stimulus at this time, leaving the possibility open for some relief to restaurants. No, there might be something small for restaurants, but the economy is booming. There are millions of open jobs, and we do not believe people should be sitting at home if they are vaccinated and boosted, as most adults are, the senior official said when asked if additional stimulus legislation was being taken seriously. But the official added, so we are not going to write checks to incentivize people to sit at home, and we are not going to bail out businesses if the economy seems strong, leaving the possibility open if something changes. Now, here's what I want to touch on with that. Leaving the possibility open if something changes. That's key. But the other one, we're not going to write checks to incentivize people to stay or sit at home, and we are not going to bail out businesses if the economy seems strong. Here's the problem with that statement, because there's already been a bunch of people that bash that statement, a bunch of media outlets. The problem is the economy is strong now, but what happens if, let's say, millions more people contract this Omicron variant? They have to shut down businesses for 5 days. Granted, 5 days is not a lifetime. 5 days, just 5 days, a week. But for many, they can't afford to go a week without work, a week without income. Many people, many businesses will struggle if they go a week without being open. So what happens there? So in a sense, even though the economy is strong, it doesn't mean that there isn't a possibility for some additional stimulus. Yes. Is it going to go to just restaurants? I don't think so. I think there'd be a lot of pushback from other industries like, what about us? What about bars? What about movie theaters, gyms? What about retail stores, right? What happens? What about schools? Are schools going to get additional funding? What about, airlines, right? We know the airlines have been hit hard, but are we seeing talks of, additional stimulus to the airlines? No. So that's what's interesting about this statement is there's a lot of room here to find more assistance to the American people and to businesses here on U.S. soil. But what I can say is at least there's a possibility. If things change, there's a possibility for more. But I just want to leave you with this one last thing. Do I think we're going to see additional stimulus checks? No. Do I think we're going to see additional stimulus go to specific businesses and industries? Yes, I do. And the reason for that is because many have been hit extremely hard. So we're going to see what happens. But again, I will be here every step of the way. I will provide you with new updates as we get them. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.